I'm Dwight Drummond. Tonight, the rise in new COVID cases causes the province to tighten restrictions.
Outdoor gatherings will be restricted to a maximum of 25 people, and indoor gatherings will be restricted to a maximum of 10 people.
And if you don't follow the rules, you could be stuck with a very hefty fine. Plus,
I'm proud to say that I'm the son of Chris and the brother of Bradley, Adelaide, and Joey.
a son remembers his dad and siblings after they were shot to death in their Oshawa home earlier this month. And
Wolfie is obsessed with garbage trucks.
the pandemic brought together an unlikely friendship, a toddler and some sanitation workers.
We took a liking to him and he took a liking to us. Wolfie's a really great kid. He's a really great kid. I like that kid, man.
We'll bring you to Wolfie's third birthday party, starring a few special guests he calls his superheroes. First tonight, it's been exactly 6 months since Ontario declared a state of emergency over COVID-19, but with recent victories in the battle against the disease now in jeopardy because of a resurgence in new cases, the Premier announced he's rolling back the size of social gatherings in some areas. Lorenda Redekop joins us live now from King Street West. And Lorenda, both Toronto and Peel will likely be impacted by the new limits.
That's right, Dwight, and that's because they are two of the regions that have consistently had the highest number of new cases of COVID-19. This all goes into effect tomorrow. It does not affect the businesses like what you see behind me, bars and restaurants. This is really about private gatherings. And if you get caught, you will be facing a steep fine.
This is a serious situation, folks. We will throw the book at you if you break the rules.
It's private parties the province wants to crack down on. Get caught hosting one, it's a minimum $10,000 fine, $750 for anyone attending.
They must be a few fries short of a Happy Meal, these people, because I don't get it. They go out there, they know the rules, and they just blatantly ignore it, and they're hurting families. They're hurting seniors, they're hurting everyone.
The changes apply to Ontario's 3 COVID hotspots, Toronto, Peel and Ottawa. The maximum size of gatherings drops from 100 people outside down to 25. Inside, it goes from 50 people down to 10. Mayors pushed for these changes and say it'll make enforcement easier.
We had complaints come in about a backyard party. We went there and there was 89 people at the backyard party. Well, that was allowed under Stage 3.
But the rules do not apply to events at staffed venues.
To a night we'll never forget.
Like bars, restaurants, or wedding venues like banquet halls.
So to my mind,
Just yesterday, Toronto's top doctor said her team is looking into 22 cases from 4 weddings.
It's of real concern to me because we've seen this happen at not one, not two, but quite a few weddings. And weddings, of course, are joyous occasions, but they're also opportunities for big crowds of people to get together.
But the Premier says they're different.
They have really strict protocols in place. They're supervised. People are getting their temperatures taken. They're wearing masks. They're socially distancing. And so it's really night and day. And I think all the banquet halls and the restaurants, they've been doing an incredible job.
The opposition says the size limits need to apply to schools.
Why is it okay to have 70 kids on a bus and 30 kids in a classroom when he's saying that it's unsafe to have 10 people in an indoor space?
Again, the Premier says it's not the same.
We're comparing a school that have cohorts and have the teachers there supervising and have social distancing and wearing masks and hand sanitizer and having nurses on hand and comparing it to a wild party in the backyard that people are drinking, hugging, kissing, spitting.
Now, there is still a bit of confusion about which events exactly are included and which ones are exempt. For example, if you have a wedding and it's professionally catered, but it is at a private outdoor space, so does it get included for these smaller limits or no? So I still haven't received any clarification from the government on that. I did email them earlier this afternoon. And plus, there's another region that would like to be included and would like those smaller gathering limits to be put there too, and that's York Region. And the mayor of Markham, he tweeted this afternoon that he'd like to be in that, and said that York's medical officer of health has also been calling for that. In York Region, it was just behind Ottawa today in terms of the number of new COVID cases. Dwight?
Not a good spot to be in. Thank you for that, Lorenda. Now, a motion to cap class sizes at 15 students has been voted down at Queen's Park. Opposition leader Andrew Horvath forced the vote this afternoon.
The government is cutting corners with a bargain basement back-to-school scheme that pinches pennies on the backs of our children.
The government argued in favor of its school reopening plan, with one MPP accusing the opposition of hysteria and fear-mongering. Class sizes currently vary by city and school board. The province hasn't mandated reduced class sizes in its school reopening guidelines. The vote follows a recent Sick Kids report showing there isn't enough space for more than 12 to 15 students to physically distance in typical classrooms. Now, there's been a surge in COVID-19 cases in the city's downtown waterfront community. 55 cases have been reported recently in that neighborhood. Chris Glover joins us live now from City Place. And Chris, lots of young people call that area home.
They certainly do, and a lot of young people are out enjoying this nice weather today. And what we know is that statistically speaking, young people are more likely to get COVID-19, and more troubling for health officials is that more and more often people are not able to tell them where they're coming into contact with the virus. Since its onset, COVID-19 has been a killer primarily of the elderly, but it's young people who are catching the infection more often.
I feel like maybe they're not as aware of the consequences or the ongoing health effects as people in higher age demographics.
One tipster so angry with this scene of young people in the park by City Place condos, they sent CBC Toronto photographs.
I've seen groups at the park here of 15, 20 people, no social distancing. So no, I don't think young people are taking it seriously.
Data from Toronto Public Health shows Toronto's relatively young downtown waterfront neighborhood has seen 55 recent cases. The next closest neighborhood is up in the city's northwest at 34. Still, not everyone buys that young people are outpacing older age brackets.
They seem to be okay. The news may say something else, but I don't know. It seems like everyone's staying pretty clean out here.
But check this out, 34% of Ontario's active cases are among people in their 20s, even though they make up only 14% of the province's population. But this epidemiologist says it may not be recklessness.
Another explanation is that a lot of people in that age demographic need to be out to work. So they're the people who are working in restaurants, they're the people who are working in bars.
Her bigger concern is no matter the age, public health officials can't trace how more than half of Ontario's latest COVID-19 cases became infected.
If we don't understand how and where people are getting infected, it's very hard to control this disease. Then we have to rely on blunter measures like lockdowns and like shutting down large swaths of businesses because we just don't understand, what's higher risk and what's lower risk.
Regardless, another major risk of young people being infected is if they pass it along to their older loved ones.
I have a grandmother who's 95 who lives in Hamilton. So yeah, I'm definitely concerned of infecting her.
I've gotten non-symptomatic tests before I do visit people that are older, just to try to keep them safe. So I think it's just being conscious.
And Dwight, one of the things that you and I keep talking about every night is how important testing is. And that is one thing you will not find in this neighborhood. There are no testing sites here. And so I asked Ontario Health if they had any plans to transition maybe a mobile testing site to this area, just like they did up in the northwest part of the city. And so far, they haven't gotten back to me yet. So that's still an open question, but I'll stay on it.
Thank you, Chris. A funeral was held today for 4 family members shot and killed in their home 2 weeks ago. Loretta Trainor was home when her brother arrived uninvited. He shot her husband and 3 children before turning the gun on himself. Greg Ross now with more from the sad day in Oshawa.
Still confined to a wheelchair after being shot in the leg less than 2 weeks ago, Loretta Trainor watched as the bodies of her husband and 3 children were carried into the church. Among the pallbearers, her son and only surviving child, Sam Trainor. Inside the church, he stood by her side as the two spoke publicly for the first time since that horrific night.
There are just some things you need to do, you know? And I'm up here because I need to be. And Sam, he's beside me because he needs to be.
She was also surrounded by the 4 caskets of her husband Chris, daughter Adelaide, and her 2 other sons, Bradley and Joseph.
My beautiful Chris, Bradley, Adelaide, and Joey were taken too soon, too violently, and without warning. We have to acknowledge that. I have lost so many parts of me that make me a better person. They were the best of me, but with Sam beside me and all of you supporting me, I have hope that those parts of Chris, Bradley, Adelaide, and Joey, those parts that make up the best parts of me, can find their way back in.
Let us remember the happiness with which they lived rather than the evil with which they were taken. Dad, Bradley, Adelaide, and Joey, I'll always be thankful for the time I was blessed to have with you. I wish with all my heart that it could have been longer, and we could have all gone through life together. Saying goodbye to you 4 has been the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I'll always love you guys, and Mom and I will miss you every day until we see you again.
Because of COVID-19 restrictions, the number of people allowed inside the church was limited to about 100. More than 1,000 family and friends had to watch the service on a private live stream, but still, many more from around the community showed up here to the church and stood out on the street, wanting to pay their respects to the family.
We felt it was important to show support for Loretta and Sam. And I can't imagine what they're going through now, and this just our chance to say bye.
Being a mom and grandmother myself, just thought of 3 kids and her husband, and it's just hard. I don't know, it breaks my heart.
As the funeral procession left the church, dozens of people could be seen lining the streets. Sam Trainor addressed the support the family has received in his eulogy.
The pain is too much for any individual to deal with, but it's never too much for the community. It is by leaning on those we love and by using the support of the community that we'll eventually be able to heal.
Greg Ross, CBC News, Oshawa.
Halton Regional Police have arrested and charged 2 men who allegedly abducted and killed a Brampton teen in June.
Ezekiel, or Zeke as he was known by his family and friends, was an innocent teenager who was intentionally targeted by a group of male adults who were known to him. Ezekiel was targeted due to an ongoing dispute between the group of males and another adult male who had befriended Ezekiel.
Police say Ezekiel Adjamong was abducted by the men. A passerby found his body a day later near Guelph Line and number 10 Side Road in Milton. He died as a result of a gunshot wound. Police have made 2 arrests in the case. 22-year-old Taiwani Muhammad of Toronto is facing charges of first-degree murder and kidnapping. 29-year-old Abdikadir Jamal of Hamilton is also facing a charge of kidnapping. Police are still looking for 2 other men in their 20s who are considered armed and dangerous. Investigators are asking anyone with information to contact them. And Toronto police have made arrests in 2 recent murder investigations, including the shooting last month of John Wheeler, who was gunned down in the Eglinton and Danforth area.
He was just going to work like he did every morning, 3:30. He was out there waiting for his ride. And unfortunately, at this time, I do believe that he was there at the wrong place at the wrong time.
45-year-old John Wheeler worked in the construction industry and was waiting for his ride to work outside of his apartment building on August 12th. He was approached from behind and shot in the back. Police released surveillance video of the suspect. They've arrested 18-year-old Christopher Mitchell of Brampton. He's charged with first-degree murder. Police are looking for 2 other suspects. Police also announcing today they've made an arrest in the murder of 26-year-old Andre Rodriguez. Rodriguez was shot and killed last Thursday in the parking lot of a Walmart near St. Clair and Runnymede.
Yesterday, investigators from the Toronto Police Service Homicide Squad arrested 34-year-old Mohammed Osman Daoud of St. Catharines and charged him with first-degree murder.
33-year-old Abdel Munim Abdallah of Grimsby is also charged in connection with the case. Investigators are crediting members of the public for helping them make arrests in both murders. Police have arrested a man in connection with a boat crash that killed one person and injured 6 others. It happened around 12:30 p.m. on September 3rd, just off Woodbine Beach. A video released at the time shows the boat traveling at a high rate of speed directly towards the rocky shore. A 47-year-old man died in hospital while 3 others were taken to hospital for treatment. 46-year-old Tamalagan Oliver Nicholas of Markham has been charged with criminal negligence causing death and 2 counts of criminal negligence causing bodily harm. He's set to appear in court in November. One of the missing men police have been searching for this week has been found. 98-year-old Leonard Simpson was located this afternoon. Police didn't provide any details on his condition. Simpson had been missing since Monday. Meanwhile, officers are still searching for another missing man.
We brought in numerous resources. We have a search manager that's here. We brought resources from right across the city. So obviously we're taking this to the highest level of our search capacity, and we're out there doing everything we can.
83-year-old Chandulal Gandhi was last seen on Tuesday at 5 p.m. near Kipling Avenue in Steeles. He was wearing gray dress pants, a black jacket, and a blue baseball cap. Now, he's described as around 5'7" with a slim build, white hair, and a white beard. Gandhi is also partially blind. Police are asking people to check their properties and any security footage they may have. They are specialized teams that pair a police officer with a mental health nurse, and the Toronto Police Service wants to see more of the mobile crisis intervention teams, even as the city looks for alternative non-police models for responding to mental health crises. Farah Morelli explains.
So we found the subject in the corner there armed with a knife.
It was the middle of the afternoon last month when Constable Paul Reagan and CV Jacob were called to these steps about a woman in crisis.
We're doing crowd management, trying to secure the scene so that people from the general public are not in arm's length of this individual.
Joachim, a mental health nurse, stepped in and learned the woman had a diagnosed illness.
We were able to have a dialogue about what exactly brought this person here today, and that took a lot of time and trust. So once we got to that point, and also to help her put the weapon down.
Calls like these, sometimes back-to-back, are routine for this nurse and constable team, one of 10 existing mobile crisis intervention teams run by Toronto Police.
We want to get to a state where our 16 divisions will each have a unique team.
The police also want to double the hours the teams respond to calls. The proposed expansion follows months of criticism about how police services respond to crisis calls, especially in racialized communities. With the recent deaths of Ajaz Chowdhury and DeAndre Campbell, both shot and killed by Peel police, and the death of Regis Korchinski-Paquette in Toronto.
We hear what the public is saying.
Deputy Police Chief Peter Ewan says the plan is MCIT will get more specific training with an aim to improve the way they handle mental health calls.
Major focuses on anti-black racism and anti-Indigenous and racialized community, because we are hearing from the community we're not responding appropriately.
We do not need the police on these calls.
Some critics say expanding police involvement in mental health calls will not raise community confidence in how crises are dealt with.
The community is saying, let's defund the police, let's reinvest in our communities, and let's build community-based responses to mental health support.
Obviously, there's more work to be done.
Today, the TPS board agreed to look at more specifics of the expansion in November. The service says the plan is to have more teams like these responding to more calls by next spring. Farah Morelli, CBC News, Toronto.
School is finally in session for Toronto public elementary and high schools. There have been delays and glitches along the way to get classrooms ready. Alicia San reports with the first day in the books.
The day started off with some glitches, literally.
Yeah, with the app.
Timetables weren't loading, nor was the screening tool.
It seemed to have crashed for many people, so for those who didn't fill it out yet, it was a little difficult, so we had to fill it out by paper and wait in line for quite some time. It was a little stressful. I mean, we didn't know if class was going to start without us.
Once inside, students said all was well, but also weird.
We sat in rows with 2 desks, and only one person can sit per desk, for the 2 desks. And So there was only 15 students in one class.
I am following the rules for sure because I don't want to get COVID.
Today, these students have their first go at the alternating in-class and online learning model in place for high schoolers.
You had to do a lot of independent learning, which I don't really mind, but it was fine for me.
After the morning classroom session and after lunch, they return home to finish the day off in front of a computer.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
All in all, William Lyon Mackenzie Collegiate's principal says,
Considering, some of the technical difficulties we had this morning, I think it went well.
now that Toronto public schools are open, we get to see the efforts at the local school level. No singing? Here's a class that learned the national anthem in sign language. Physical distancing? French class outside. The first day is an important milestone, especially this year.
You're seeing a smile on my face, but it posed quite a few challenges. We are doing everything in our capability and whatever we can possible to ensure that their child is safe when they get to school. As I said, we will be very vigilant in terms of respecting and obeying the protocols that have been put in place by Toronto Public Health, by the TDSB, by the Ontario government.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
University and college students are heading back to class, which means more people are using public transit. A group of concerned students rallied in front of City Hall today, calling for funding for a safer journey.
For years, grassroots organizations like TTC Riders have been calling for public investments into the public transit, and for years, governments of all political stripes have devalued these services, leading to overcrowded, inaccessible, and expensive transit. This is when we say enough is enough.
The group wants permanent funding from the province to reduce crowding. They pushed back against last month's emergency plan by the province, which will give conditional money if the TTC considers privatization, swapping out buses on less popular routes with services like Uber. They also want hand sanitizer in all vehicles and a bus route that runs through Scarborough right to downtown. 3-year-old Wolfgang Reeder couldn't have a normal birthday party because of the pandemic, but when he told his mom his ideal guests were his superheroes, she laughed it off. Weeks later, those heroes showed up in style and gave Wolfie a birthday he will never forget. Angelina King shares the story.
I look like garbage kid.
Like many kids, 3-year-old Wolfgang Reeder likes to pretend to be his favorite superheroes. For him, it's the neighborhood garbage man.
Here's your DJ.
That one's DJ.
And this one is Drew.
Wolfie got to know DJ and Drew while staying at home during the pandemic. Every Friday, he'd be waiting with his trucks, ready to hang out with his new friends. They call themselves the Wolf Pack.
We took a liking to him and he took a liking to us. Wolfie's a really great kid. He's a really great kid. I like that kid, man.
Wolfie's friendship has turned into a bit of an obsession. His favorite toy, garbage trucks, lots of them. This year's Halloween costume, a garbage man. His dream career, a garbage loader. So when his 3rd birthday rolled around and the pandemic stopped him from having a big party, his parents said he could invite over 1 or 2 friends. His choice?
Without hesitation, he said Drew and DJ immediately. So we laughed it off, especially because it was a Wednesday, his birthday, and if these, they come around on a Friday, so if it were on a Friday, I'm sure we could have made it work.
But superheroes wouldn't miss such a special day. 4 garbage trucks showed up and Wolfie got to meet some new heroes. Although DJ was on holidays, Drew brought a gift from the Wolf Pack.
Since you're part of the pack, we got you something.
And what's even better than getting your very own gear?
You come play me with my garbage trucks.
Help the family, give the kids something to do during this lockdown and bring out the good spirits in times like this.
So what's it like to be a real-life superhero?
It means a lot because it's the children, They're the next generation to come. So seeing them enthusiastic about even just something as simple as, as what we do in our everyday lives brings meaning, shows the importance of everything that everyone does in society. So it makes me feel good.
And what's it like to be part of the Wolf Pack?
It's like seeing a bunch of 3-year-olds on the sidewalk. They take it right down to his level. They dance. They're not afraid to be silly, really kind, gentle souls who are full of positive, good energy. These are role models, ideal role models.
And essential workers serving their community while still making time for their little buddy.
Thank you.
And one of their best superpowers, they'll be back next week. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
I think I smiled through that whole story. That was great. Great on the sanitation guys for taking the time to have some fun with that little guy. And that little guy realizing that they do important work for us all, Colette.
They absolutely do. I love that story, too, so much. And he's in great company because I had a lot of respect. Unfortunately, he passed away, but a really important journalist, Tim Russert, who was the longtime host of Meet the Press. His father was a sanitation collector, and he used to go on the route with his dad when he was younger. And he, in his book, when I read his book, he talked about how much he learned from his dad and what a hard worker he was. And it seems like that little guy is learning a lot, too, and having a lot of respect for those guys, too. I love that story so much. All right, I want to show you what our morning temperatures were today, because giving you an idea of what our daytime highs are going to be tomorrow. So never mind these for your morning temperatures tomorrow, because they're going to look nothing like this, and they're not going to feel anything like that either. They're going to be a lot cooler. Here's a look at our current temperatures now. Cooler air masses moved in, and the winds coming in mostly from the north. I know we got one off the lake here, but yeah, this is this cooler air, and it means tonight the frost advisories, they're not quite to us. I'm going to show you a little later in the show, though, how close they're getting and when we might be seeing those moving in. But we have these clear skies with high pressure in here. It's allowing this chillier air, and our highs kind of running well below seasonal. So overnight, we are falling in the city to 6 degrees. We'll see some cooler temperatures pretty nearby. Tomorrow's high only 15, but we're going back to seasonal, not too far away. So I'm going to give you that news coming up too, Dwight,
Thanks,
when that's going to happen.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The weather is brought to you by Trainor, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
It has been exactly 6 months since you heard this from our premier.
I've declared a state of emergency in the province of Ontario.
We'll take you on a journey through the pandemic from March until now, coming up after the break. Today marks exactly 6 months since Ontario declared a state of emergency over the COVID-19 pandemic. What would follow is an unprecedented series of closures, disruptions, and heartbreaking loss. But the pandemic also brought communities closer together, even as they were forced to stay apart. Marvel Taruk takes a look back at the last 6 months of life in a pandemic.
6 months ago today, we made the difficult but necessary decision to declare a state of emergency in Ontario.
March 17th, a dire proclamation.
This morning, I've declared a state of emergency in the province of Ontario.
Touching off a seismic shift away from normalcy, large swaths of Toronto turned into ghost towns, roads and highways clear of congestion, and the closures would mount.
We will be denying entry to Canada to people who are not Canadian citizens or permanent residents.
Canada and the U.S. agreed to close their shared border. The very next day, the threat of COVID-19 becomes even more real.
Well, Toronto Public Health has just announced the first death in the city related to COVID-19.
March 26th, more unprecedented restrictions. The City of Toronto closes park amenities and playgrounds. And despite pleas from officials not to stockpile necessities, shoppers clear out shelves of sanitizers, wipes, and toilet paper. But local businesses step up, retooling to produce badly needed supplies.
We're all friends and neighbors, and some of our friends and neighbors are on the front line.
Throughout March and April, hospitals tend to the growing number of patients infected with COVID-19 kept in isolation.
The hardest part is when that family member is weeping, and when that family member is begging you to do everything that you can, and when that family member can't be here.
It sparks spontaneous tributes, a city showing gratitude for frontline workers. But the devastation is far from over. Long-term care facilities become overwhelmed with outbreaks, heart-wrenching for family members unable to even see their loved ones inside. By May, the province calls on Canada's armed forces to be deployed to long-term care homes. It results in a damning report about abuse and neglect at these homes.
Thank you to the military. They're finally here listening to families.
May 12th, an iconic summer event is canceled.
These are historic times, and this a historic decision.
The CNE announces it won't go ahead for just the second time in 142 years. May 19th, Ontario enters stage 1 of reopening. On the same day, the province announces all public schools will not reopen until September. Learning at home and online continues. May 23rd, the spring weather draws thousands of people to Trinity Bellwoods Park, and condemnation on social media and from the Premier.
You know, I thought it was a rock concert at the beginning when I went out there. I was absolutely shocked.
Cases of COVID-19 begin to steady in the month of June, and students are allowed to return to their schools for the first time since mid-March to collect belongings. June 24th, Toronto and Peel join the majority of Ontario in entering stage 2 of reopening.
We need to try to go back to our normal life.
Patios, shopping malls are open again. July 7th, Toronto declares masks mandatory in all indoor public spaces.
Freedom of choice is essential.
On the same day, an anti-mask demonstration is staged downtown. July 28th, pro sports returns with the Maple Leafs resuming play inside the NHL bubble.
We're doing the right things here to stay safe and stay away from each other.
July 30th, the first details of the province's back-to-school plan are announced with a focus on in-person classes.
They need to go to school for their development, for their health, their physical, social, and mental well-being.
July 31st, Toronto and Peel enter stage 3 of reopening as Ontario reports the lowest case counts since March. Indoor dining is allowed, and so are workouts in gyms, but with lower capacity. August begins with high hopes for the reigning NBA champs. The Toronto Raptors pull up to the NBA bubble in Florida with a message. August 11th, the Blue Jays play their first home game in Buffalo after Ottawa rejects the team's plan to play in Toronto. September 8th, the first GTA students head back to school, a new year with unprecedented new rules.
So his teachers told us that he was able to keep his mask on for majority of the day.
September 14th, Ontario records 313 new cases, its highest COVID-19 case count since early June.
Thanks to Maraville and producer James Waddy for that. Now, looking forward to the next few months, it could be even more difficult for Canadians to protect themselves against COVID-19 once the cooler weather sets in. Usually getting together in the fall and winter means moving indoors, which is often not safe right now. Jayla Bernstein shows us how people are thinking ahead about socializing safely when the temperature drops.
The warm September weather has many enjoying the outdoors, but what happens when temperatures start to drop and visits like this are no longer possible?
I think a lot of us are starting to think about it now and psychologically preparing ourselves. What are we prepared to do? And you know, at 71, I don't want to take any chances going indoors.
Play a puzzle, you read a book, you chat on the phone, look at TV, you find a way to busy your brain, you know?
As COVID cases rise, there's also Thanksgiving to consider. Those large traditional indoor family dinners just won't be safe.
It's not going to be a popular choice, but I think the best thing you can do is, Zoom, Skype, FaceTime,
try to find ways where you can still celebrate, but to do so safely.
She says if you really want to get together with family for the holiday, outside is better if you follow guidelines.
Even if you're gathering outside, if you're going to be hugging each other and like high-fiving each other, then that doesn't really reduce your risk. But if you're going to sit on the patio and still maintain that 6 feet distance and wear a mask when you're not eating, and if you are making food available, making sure that the utensils that you're using aren't being shared and that each person has their own little prepackaged food situation going on, I think that would probably be a safer way to still socialize.
People have been getting creative when it comes to trying to find ways to minimize risk but still see friends and family and keeping it outside even as the cold weather approaches. Places like Home Depot say they've seen an increase in sales for outdoor fire pits and heaters for patios. She says they'll do winter picnics outdoors on the patio. She says cold weather doesn't mean they have to stay isolated inside. It just means you need to add a few more layers before going out. Jayla Bernstein, CBC News, Montreal.
So when the pandemic hit, many events, including charity events, had to be canceled, but the Yorkville Charity Run found a way to go on virtually.
So it's still a 5K, but you can run at night, you could run in a treadmill, you could run at a park, wherever you like.
Yeah, those are my chicken legs. I joined some of the runners as they prepared for the 5K for special causes. We'll bring you to a workout session coming up. Toronto Raptors president Masai Ujiri is out of the bubble after the team lost to the Celtics in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Today, he reflected on the struggles the players had during their more than 2-month quarantine in Orlando.
I think it comes down to the mental aspect, being confined in one place. That was really difficult. And so the mental game, I think the mental aspect was really the hardest part. And it was hard for me. I can't even imagine the players.
With just 1 year left in his contract, Ujiri said he has not been in talks to renew yet. He also opened up about his lawsuit against the Alameda County Sheriff's deputy. He said he had trouble sleeping after a video came out showing the officer shoving him as he was trying to get on the court after the Raptors won the championship last year. We're both Raps fans, and we hope he renews, and every time I see that video, it's upsetting. Sorry.
It is. Yeah, I can understand why he couldn't sleep. It is upsetting. Yeah, we've got Nick Nurse wrapped up. We got to get him wrapped up as well, right? Let me show you what's going on with these weather headlines and what you can expect, because I do have some good news coming, but we are going into the spell here of some cooler, not just days, but certainly some cool nights ahead as well. And I call it a 5-degree drop on our daytime highs. It's roughly about 5 degrees. We're running below seasonal, but it is a dry pattern that's holding, and you need those sunglasses because with this high pressure in place, that dry pattern means lots of sunshine. So this is very positive. We're headed towards a weekend where there's going to be plenty of sunshine, so you can make plans knowing that you're not going to have them rained out at least. Here are your current temperatures, what we're looking at. Now, the low this morning was 13, so hey, it was mild. Yeah, this morning, it's not going to be tomorrow morning. So the current readings are looking like this. This is this ridge of high pressure moving in, and I've been talking about how the pattern in terms of the jet stream going a little more zonal, and with the feature at the surface that's moved through in that cold front, it's changed everything. So in terms of those smoke particles that we were seeing from the West Coast forest fires, those have moved out of our air. So we're not going to be seeing those sunsets the same. The sunsets tonight, by the way, at 7:26. So we won't have those red skies anymore, or at least the red sun at sunset, because that's changing things. It wasn't a problem for us. We know that in terms of respiratory issues because it was so high up in the atmosphere. But yeah, just this ridge of high pressure, but it does allow the cool nights. It allows frost, and the advisories for now, those are off to the east of us and up into northern Ontario. But boy, oh boy, we're going to see those creeping closer to us as we get towards the weekend. And I would encourage you that if you do have some tender vegetation, some of these plants plants, you will want to be covering them up. I'm going to be doing that this weekend with some of my plants and just taking care of them, because we're going to see, especially to the north of the 407 on northern fringes here of the city, we will be seeing some of those temperatures dipping closer to the freezing mark as we go into the weekend. Overnight tonight, the readings look like this, a little milder towards St. Catharines and towards the Niagara region, but look at Markham, and that's for tonight. For tomorrow night, Markham, you're going to be seeing those readings down towards 0-1 degrees or so, so some cooler temperatures. Tomorrow afternoon, this is what I mean by that 5-degree drop, 5 degrees off of seasonal, but I said it wouldn't be long. I was telling Dwight earlier, I'm going to show you when it's going to warm up. So the cool nights, cool daytime highs. By Monday, we're coming up. In fact, Sunday's not bad, but Tuesday back to seasonal. And it's not just Tuesday, Dwight. As I was looking ahead, we're going to go back to seasonal and stay there for a while.
Is that the fall equinox on Tuesday?
Yeah, it's the 22nd, so it is.
It's a certain host's birthday, too. Thanks, Colette.
Oh, you're giving me time to shop.
I'll be off. Bye.
I'm Ismaila Alpha, host of Metro Morning. On tomorrow's program, Metro Morning's first interview with Canada's health minister since the pandemic started. So, what did we learn from the federal response to COVID-19? And what does Canada's future look like moving forward as the pandemic continues? All topics we'll discuss with Minister Patty Hajdu tomorrow on Metro Morning. Join me weekdays, 5:30 till 8:30 on CBC Radio 1.
The Yorkville 5K Charity Run is now on the way virtually. You can check it out online. One of the many charities that will benefit is the Wood Green Foundation, which helps marginalized populations in our city. The funds raised this year will support youth services. I went for a socially distant training session with some young participants as they get ready to run.
Well, I've been training.
Yeah, we've all been training.
You guys have been training. Okay, can I train with you guys today?
Sure.
One spot. So try and get
What am I stretching? I'm not
your
sure.
hamstrings.
My
The back
hamstrings,
of your
okay.
leg. You should feel it, okay? If you
Got
don't feel it, you're not doing it right.
Uh-oh.
So I'm super passionate about helping to get kids running and also giving back to running. Running's given a lot to me. Quicker, quicker, quicker.
So how do I run virtually?
That's a good question.
Yeah, because I think if I could just do it on my phone and like with my fingers, or do I have to actually go out and run?
A virtual run basically is just you would track your run yourself, and then you would report your time. So it's still a 5K, but you can run at night, you could run in a treadmill, you could run at a park, wherever you like, in whatever way that you feel safe.
We have free walking counseling sessions, which is completely virtual and over the phone right now as well. And we also provide other programs, so peer support programs. We have a Manhood Monday session and a Womanhood session for our Rites of Passage programs. We also host like digital tech programs. Pretty much anything a youth could want that influences their health, we have a program for.
Mental health is not just about walking through a clinic. There's a lot of influences that affects your whole state of being well. You will be in a better place to make a decision to do a lot of things that you may think you want to do if you understand the overall health outcomes of these decisions. So it's a matter of providing information to young people so that they can make the best decisions around their whole health.
Okay, go for it.
So Cassandra, tell me about Wood Green and the kind of things you do there and why you like it.
In 2018, I participated in their drop-in soccer program, and now they gave the opportunity to be a part of the Yorkville Run, and that helps me to stay active, especially during this time, and to stay motivated because we all have the same goal and they're all very supportive.
I did a data science course, which is basically Python, and it involves a bunch of engineering, mathematics, and business as well. I'm taking in this Yorkville Run, which really helps me stay active after coming out of quarantine. I feel like I can lose that weight I gained in quarantine. And yeah, and my parents are feeling proud of me too, so I feel like I'm really proud of myself as well for having the initiative to join into programs like these.
Woo! Good job, guys.
Shout out to Coach too for taking care of us on that one. It was a lot of fun and they're raising some good money for a good cause. Now, it was sunny, but a little chilly. Can we use chilly too early? I don't know. The weekend is supposed to be all right. Colette will join us with one last look at your forecast after the break. Stay with us. We are coming right back. The Daily Bread Food Bank launched their annual Thanksgiving food drive today. They say the need is even more urgent with a 200% increase in new clients because of COVID-19. Now, to meet the increased need, their goals this year are some of their highest ever.
The Thanksgiving food drive, the goal is very clear. The need in the city is real. It's been discussed. It is up dramatically. The need for food banks has increased by 34%.
Thanksgiving reminds us to be grateful for the blessings that we receive in our lives. The spirit of Thanksgiving also requires us to come together and share our blessings with those in our community who lack the basics of life.
One of the things that we have noticed since the pandemic started is a whole host of new faces to the food bank. It's your neighbor. It's your neighbor that lost their position, that needs a helping hand.
There's more and more people that didn't think that they would be in the position that they would require the food bank. The need is more, and the unfortunate part is it's also less in the amount of people that are able to contribute. So that is a bigger burden on those that can.
Some of the most needed items are those that are high protein goods, including peanut butter, canned beans, tuna, as well as canned fruits and vegetables, and of course, pasta and rice. Please help the Daily Bread Food Bank to reach its goal of collecting 272,000 pounds to help all of those who are in need.
And to reach that goal, Councillor Thompson just mentioned, items can be dropped off at fire halls and grocery stores. So, Colette, let's give as we give thanks for our bounty.
Yes, let's do this. And let's do this. Let's give you your weather forecast quickly here as well. Overnight tonight, a very cool 6 degrees. Tomorrow, running below seasonal, 15, but with a lot of sunshine. And it's coming, a warm up, but we've got a few days to get through and several cool nights as well to get through before we are going to see our temperatures bouncing back to where they should be for this time of year. When's it going to happen? The autumnal, as Dwight was pointing out, the autumnal equinox coming up Tuesday when we get there. But in the meantime, we may see some of these frost advisories, Dwight, getting closer to us.
God, it's good my kale is inside and safe. Now it's over for the season.
In the fridge.
That's it. Thank you, Colette. That is our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. We will see you back here tomorrow at 6. Have a great night, everybody.